So in the month of November 2022, Nintendo decided to go off the script and actually give us two brand new N64 games for Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, and they are of course the well-known and beloved Mario Party 1 and Mario Party 2, and we know that 3 will be on the way in 2023. And in today's video, I want to boot up these games together, share my initial gameplay experience, and walk down memory lane with you all, in addition to discussing the future roadmap of N64 games and where I believe Nintendo will be headed with the update roadmap schedule going forward. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today is an exciting day because we are getting to experience two very fan favorite classics known as Mario Party 1 and 2. They are the newest November games that did drop into Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, and it's kind of a curveball from Nintendo because if you've been paying attention to the roadmap schedule so far, you know we've become conditioned to expect one new N64 game per month because that's essentially what they've stuck to since they actually launched the service and started adding in new games. And with exceptions to that rule, because of course they did miss September, surprisingly enough, but you know, that may have just been because they had the Nintendo Direct and they updated the game's roadmap, and maybe they felt like that was going to hold us over. And then we get the surprise two games in November, which I think, and this will be kind of a theme and topic for the video, is that I think we will start to see Nintendo actually mix up their launch schedule for N64 games. I think that first year that the service was out, it was a pretty rigid path where we could expect one new game per month, and I think now they start to go off the script a little bit more. Did they decide to release both these games together at the same time because they missed September and they're in numerical order? Well, then you'd have to say maybe they would want to also include Mario Party 3 because that's in this trilogy of games, but 3 games may be too much in Nintendo's eyes for 1 month. Or is it something that it really is that they are clearing out the roadmap and making room for December being the big game that could take us home for the year, which is GoldenEye? And I've seen that theory a lot online, and I absolutely want to buy into it. The one thing where I'm conflicted on it is the fact, and I'm going last here, great, is the fact that Nintendo, you may know that in the Nintendo Direct in Japan, that there was actually a section of that trailer that showed at the end that it was a 2023 game. Now, everywhere else in the world, GoldenEye just said coming soon, but for some reason in Japan, no doubt, it is a 2023 slated release, which is like, why would Nintendo launch it there later than the rest of the world? So I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe we get it late December. Maybe it's something that hits on New Year's Eve night for us, and then in Japan, it technically is 2023 and it kicks off the year January 1st. Like, that's definitely a possibility, but it would also be very interesting to see how Nintendo navigates that. But all of that said, I do think they've come a long way with the expansion pack overall, realizing now with these two games added into the entire list that you scroll through when you first boot into the N64 app, it's come a long way. We're definitely missing classics. We're missing Smash Bros. We're missing Donkey Kong 64. We're missing Banjo-Tooie. We're missing a lot of different games that I think many people would like to see come over. But the reality is that they are slowly but surely adding in a lot of value to the service. In my personal opinion, is it worth that $50 annual price point? Well, that really comes down to you and your game preferences. But if you're somebody who's looking forward to all the Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Pass waves like I am, that's ongoing DLC, plus you have other DLC packs in there. And then you get these new N64 classics added in once per month so far, and hopefully they stick to that. And in this case, we get 2 games in the same month. It is a nice thing, not to mention the big selling point and value point on these games is the fact that these are the classic N64 ROMs that you know and love from back in the day, and they play the same with higher resolution. But the big thing is that Nintendo, with this online subscription model, has chose to add online play to every multiplayer N64 game, which I think is the biggest thing that sets it apart from just having the game playable. Yes, you have the game playable, you also have online play as a capability for a game that never would have supported it on its original hardware, clearly. So that's kind of a big selling point to me. I've literally just been watching the computers play, essentially, other from pressing A so far, because you know that's how Mario Party goes sometimes. It's definitely better played with friends, so definitely get together with your friends either locally or online. But this still brings back a lot of memories. It's still a fun game to boot up and see, and really see crisper than ever. I mean, they have figured out a good resolution balance for playing this on an HD TV. It still looks nice and neat, and it's still, you know, oh, we got a 2. Come on, this is not the start that Donkey Kong needs, and I guess we're all against Peach here. But of course, you probably will know a lot of the games from these if you played Mario Party Superstars, because they have a lot of the classic Mario Party OG mini games in there, but then there are also plenty of missing ones, which is really cool, that I'm excited to actually, you know, essentially. So we're going to jump and move out of the way. We're going to walk down memory lane and experience some mini games that I haven't experienced since I was just straight up a kid. And I mean, I think that that's really exciting, and it's really exciting that you get to do it in its original form, just better resolution. And then we ultimately get, we made it. I think we're okay. It was just Mario that got knocked out. So a walk down memory lane, but brought back in modern era and playable online is a huge win. Now, to kind of dive into the conversation part of where I think Nintendo is headed on the update roadmap schedule, I have a theory, and it really stuck out to me when they said at that last Nintendo Direct in September in the update roadmap trailer that gradually over time they would be adding in the next games. And sure, they did show us a full roadmap of the rest of 2022 and 2023, but or a part of 2023. We don't know if it's the whole thing of 2023, but that word gradually, and then seeing them add 2 games in 1 month, and then we might skip December if GoldenEye isn't indeed ready to go. I do think we get to a point now with the service that it's been out for over a year that Nintendo goes more to that sporadic release schedule that we've ultimately seen them go to with every other console that's been added into the service. You could argue that since Genesis launched, it hasn't had a specific update roadmap schedule, but I do think like once every other month, we've typically seen a batch of between 3, 4, or 5 games added in there. So one of those things that I definitely think that, yes, I hope that my hope is that they stick to at least 1 new game per calendar month, because I feel like any less than that, it really does take a punch to that value add as far as what they're asking. You know, so yeah, like you have to really think about, is this going to be worth it for you if they stop adding 1 new N64 game every month? And then we're going to hit a point relatively soon in the service after 2023, I feel like, where the big titles that you really want to see on the service will most likely be added in. And if that's the case, well, then where do you go from there? Because, you know, do we start to talk about new consoles? Because I definitely think that there's going to be a time that you have to add in things like the Game Boy family of systems next to make that expansion pack continue to be worth it. And Game Boy Advance being the big seller at that point. So do we see that ultimately added in? I believe yes. I do think that it comes at something like a September Direct in 2023, most likely. And I do think that this year could be the year that we start to see Nintendo get less consistent with the new N64 games roadmap. Maybe every now and then we do get 2 games in a month, like maybe Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 drop in the same month in 2023. But I could definitely see them kind of skipping months here and there. Or they stick to GoldenEye is technically like the January game, and then the rest of the roadmap that we have laid out for us takes us through until E3 when we get another updated roadmap look. We don't know exactly how Nintendo's going to handle this entire process, to be totally fair and transparent. It is also another gripe with Nintendo. If you are a paying subscriber for something like PlayStation Plus, for example, you at least kind of have some kind of loose commitment from Sony that there's going to be new games every month, at least 3 of them that you can download. And then, you know, if obviously they have extra and premium tiers now that have their own update roadmap schedule, but they're kind of committing to you as a consumer for paying that there's going to be so many games added in per month. And with Nintendo, we definitely are always left guessing, which sometimes is very exciting when out of the blue at 8 p.m. Central Time, where I'm at, you know, on a random Tuesday, we get the announcement that, hey, next week, you're going to be able to play the classic Mario Party 1 and 2. It's like, great, that's awesome, super surprised, but I also didn't wish I was always left guessing with Nintendo. And again, I've said it numerous times on the channel, it's why they're one of the funnest companies to talk about and cover, because yes, it's one of those things that you never know, you truly never know what they are actually planning. And so it makes them extremely unpredictable. And I definitely do think that we are going to be at a pivotal point for people deciding whether or not they want to actually renew their subscriptions, because you do have to realize that we are going to fastly be approaching that point where you know, you're going to have people that don't see the value if there's not new consoles. If you've played the N64 games you want to play, well, then you kind of have to think like, do I want to continue to pay for this service? And you really have to think that if it stays at that $50 annual price point and there's no monthly options, like that at that point, when I got charged again for my annual subscription, which amazed me, by the way, that a full year had gone by. Mario, I guess I wasn't tapping B quite fast enough, which, by the way, just quick side note, these are still very hard to find online in terms of the N64 controller on NSO, but such a more authentic experience playing these games with the N64 controller. Highly urge you guys to go follow Wario64 over on Twitter or some of the retail stock tracking accounts, because it sucks that Nintendo hasn't produced enough of this controller to meet the consumer demand around it, especially the fact that there's no in-button emulation or in-game emulation section for Nintendo Switch. Like, it's not built into the N64 emulator. You can remap the buttons in the system itself, but then everything gets confusing with moving the menus around and stuff when you're just navigating the system. They absolutely should have a in-game or in-emulator button remapping system, and unfortunately they don't. All of that said, try to grab yourself an N64 controller, because I have noticed here recently they have definitely done more frequent restock events rather, where yes, they still sell out the same day, but they are up for a notable amount of time, sometimes 6 and 9 hours I've seen, but that's just here in the US. Depending on where you're at in the world, it could be totally different. So really frustrating scenario, but all of that said, Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack definitely still has some opportunities. Games like this do a lot for me in terms of justifying the payment that just came out of the account, that yes, the service has been here for a year, but it justifies a lot of that. And I just lost 20 coins to Yoshi by a random chance thing. This is Mario Party, but see, if you're playing it with friends, it's fun because you can throw the controller at them, you can talk trash to each other, but the CPUs are just having their way with me here. So we will call the video here, guys, but I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, how you personally feel about the state of Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack today. Is it something that you feel like is really worth it to you clearly now with these kind of updates and with these kind of games that support online play? Or is it something that you still don't feel like the value is really there at the end of the day? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.